Mrs. H and I looked at the practice from last week. Thank you for those of you who completed it. And there's a couple of things that we wanted to discuss. So if you already have these two problems written in your notebook, that's going to be super helpful to reference because we're going to check in and have you answer the questions. And then based on that response, it's either going to send you to watch the rest of the video or it's going to skip over some of the video. So that's another reason why it's important that you include all your math work in your math notebook. So first we're going to start off by taking 966 divided by 8. This is our dividend, this is our divisor. Okay, we're trying to find the quotient. So I need to ask myself, how many times does 8 go into 9? And that's 1 time. 1 times 8 is 8. I'm going to subtract, and I'm going to bring down. Now I need to ask myself again, how many times does 8 go into 16? And I know that's 2 times. If I didn't know that mentally, go ahead and grab a multiplication chart. Okay. 8 times 2 is 16. And I subtract, and I bring down. Now, 8 goes into 6. 8 goes into 6 0 times. So sometimes students might see the 12 and say, oh, I'm done. It's remainder 6. However, I still have a place value that I still need to fill in for my quotient. So I actually need to ask myself, how many times does 8 go into 6? And the answer is 0. So I need to put 0 up top here. Now, in elementary school, you may have learned to write the remainders as 120 remainder 6. But since we're in middle school now, we want you to start writing it as a fraction until we start working with decimal division. When we write a remainder as a fraction, the 6 becomes the numerator, or the top number, and the divisor becomes the denominator, or the bottom number. Okay? So our final answer is 120 and 6/8. One thing that you will learn in the future weeks is about simplifying fractions. So if you already know this, fantastic, and if you don't, we can see that 6 and 8 share a number in common, which is called a factor, and that number is 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 8 divided by 2 is 8, is 4, okay? And I still keep my whole number 120. So this is actually the final answer if it was completely simplified, but for now we would also include 120 and 6/8 as an acceptable answer. Okay, so let's move on to this next problem here. This next problem is 5,420 divided by 9. So I'm going to ask myself, how many times does 9 go into 5? And it doesn't, so I'm going to put an X. 9 goes into 54 6 times. And 9 goes into 54 exactly 6 times. So I subtract that, I'm left with 0, and I bring down the 2. Now, I'm in that same pickle as I was over here. 9 can't go into 2. Okay, so I actually, before I bring down another number, I have to put a 0 up top. So 9 goes into 2 0 times, and then I could bring down my next digit, if that's the case. 9 goes into 20 2 times to make 18. I'm going to subtract, and here I'm left with a remainder. Okay, instead of writing 602 remainder 2, I'm going to write 602. 2 is my numerator, and 9 is my denominator. You could also write it up top here in the quotient spot. Okay, that is a simplified fraction, so that is our final answer. Alrighty, if you don't have these already in your notebook, make sure you include them in there. Thanks. Alrighty, so we've been spending some time finding and solving division problems with a single-digit divisor, just like we talked about last week. And now we're going to find a quotient of a division problem with a 2-digit divisor. So we have a new math problem go ahead and title your page 1.1 whole number operations. I could divide whole numbers. If you just want to carry on from your notes from last week, it is the same title because it's the same learning goal. Now, I have my dividend on the inside, my divisor on the outside, and that's the same way written horizontally as if my dividend was first and my divisor was second. So now I need to start to ask myself some questions. How many times does 67 go into 2? I know that's not possible, so I'm going to put an X and ask myself how many times 67 goes into 24. Still not possible. So now I need to think, 67, does it go into 243? I sure hope so. Let's figure out how many times. So I have 67. I need to estimate maybe. I can estimate like 67 to also be, close to 100. Now, how many times does 100 go into 243? I'd say twice. And what I want to do is since 67 is so much further away from 100, I'm gonna guess that 67 goes into 243 3 times. So let's see. 67 times 3. I'm gonna show my work on the side. 7 times 3 is 21. 3 times 6 is 18. Plus 2 is 20. Now, can I fit another 67 in there? Or will that go over 243? Now I could solve the math, or I could just add 67 to 201, and I know that's too high. So 3 is going to be my number. Okay, and 3 times 67 I've already done on the side here. 3 times 67 is 201. So I'm going to subtract, and I have 3 minus 1, which is 2, 4 minus 0, which is 4, and then bring down this 2. Now, how many times does 67 go into 422? I'm not sure, so I'm going to estimate, let's say, 5 times, okay? 67 times 5. 5 times 7 is 35. 5 times 6 is 30, plus 3 is 33. Now, can I fit another one in there? I'm not sure. I could either add another 67, or I could multiply again. 67 times 6, and I'm getting my math brain working. So 7 times 6 is 42. 6 times 6 is 36, plus 4 is 40. 402. I think that's about the closest I'm going to get without going over. So 67 goes into 422 6 times, and I'm going to multiply that. I did the work, so I am going to subtract 402. 2 minus 2 is 0. 2 minus 0 is 2, and 4 minus 4 was 0. So now I'm left with 20. Okay, I filled in my place value and my quotient. So if I were dividing it with decimals, I could keep going, but I'm not quite there yet. So instead of writing 36 remainder 20, which is probably something you've learned in elementary school, we're going to transition that into a middle school math answer by using fractions. So my whole number is going to stay the same, which is 36, and 20 is going to become my numerator, and my denominator is going to be my divisor, which is 67. Now, I could simplify that, but I know that 20 and 67 do not share a common factor, and that is simplified. If I was able to simplify it, at this point we would still accept this as an actual answer, since we haven't gotten there yet in 6th grade math. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Mrs. H or myself. Awesome job. I appreciate you including this in your notes, and we will see you later. Have a great day.